The Walt Disney Company will pave over the rivers, they will pave over the valleys, and yes, the Walt Disney Company will even pay to pave over your kids' Renegade Online. This is from Mickey Central. Because every single Disney Castle Park worldwide has a Rivers of America element. Swing it here up in California. Here's the one in Florida. Here's the one in Paris, down here. Here's the one in Tokyo. And the one in Shanghai over here. You can see the lake and the river. And then here's the one in Hong Kong. They have a river over here. The Magic Kingdoms are laid out fairly uniformly from park to park. Disney wants to add new things to the Magic Kingdom in Orlando. Now, let me pull this down for a second. What have we talked about here for the last couple of years? Let's refresh everybody's memory. When Disney decided to get involved in politics, the ticking time bombs that Bob Iger left behind at the Walt Disney Company after he departed in January of 22, basically all of his psycho, DEI, crazy, wacko, LGBTQ, LMNOP, all the people that he left there in these DEI departments. We have now seen them all on the Reimagine Tomorrow videos. We've seen them with the James O'Keefe stuff, which we'll show that video in a little bit. We have seen these folks. We've covered it. These are the people that are really pulling a lot of strings at Disney, right? It's all about representation, diversity, inclusion, blah, 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 blah. Those ticking time bombs are the ones that set the stage for this fight with Florida. And long story short, it took roughly 2 years from start to finish before that court battle was over. Disney wanted, basically had promised they were going to, okay, Chapek caved into the crazies at Disney and said, we're going to go ahead and, we're going to try to, hopefully work towards getting this law repealed. And the law was simply that if you're a teacher in a Florida school, public school, and you teach kindergarten through 4th grade, you can't have conversations with children about gender ideology and sexual orientation. It's very simple. Don't talk to kids about it. It's really easy. That was too much. So the state of Florida said, okay, Disney, you really want to push back on the voters, the legislature, the governor. It was overwhelmingly in one direction for that legislation, which was pass it. That's what we want as the state of Florida. Florida, the legislature decided to revisit the Reedy Creek Improvement District contract from 1967 that was completely out of whack with every other special taxing district in the state of Florida. And they passed a new piece of legislation that said, Disney, your 1967 compact with the state of Florida is hereby null and void. And you will be reformed under Section 189 and 190 of the Florida statutes that govern special taxing districts, which is where the Villages and Celebration Florida and all these other special taxing districts fall under. Disney had their own special set of rules. The other 2,000 special taxing districts had a separate set of rules. Now Disney has to play by those new rules. Disney didn't want to do that because Disney had more autonomous power than everybody else in Florida in terms of special districts. They could basically approve all their own permits and everything else because they completely controlled the board of Reedy Creek, which was a puppet government that basically worked for the Walt Disney Company. It's not supposed to work like that. It's supposed to be a truly public government, a public taxing body. Florida fixed that problem. Disney didn't like it. They hauled them into court. They made, again, just like the court case we just looked at, where Disney says a man can't sue Disney for wrongful death because he bought a Disney Plus subscription 5 years ago. The arguments made against what the state of Florida did were just as ridiculous. You're violating my First Amendment rights and all this other kind of stuff. No, the state of Florida has the right to form, create, and destroy their own special taxing districts. That has nothing to do with your First Amendment right. The point of telling everybody all of this again is to remind folks the reason that Disney did not do anything in the state of Florida for 2 years. They didn't build so much as really the stuff they already had in motion, right? They already had in motion things like the Tron roller coaster. They already had things in motion like the Guardians of the Galaxy piece in Epcot. The stuff that was already in planning, in development, in motion, proceeded. But as far as new stuff, they were all frozen, even to the point to where they canceled a $1 billion complex that they were building to start moving employees from Disney California in Burbank over to Disney Orlando. They were going to build a new corporate complex. And it was all because Disney wanted to put a middle finger up in the face of Ron DeSantis and the state of Florida and its voters. Now they're way behind the 8 ball. Now you've got Universal Studios Epic Universe that's opening 6 months from now, 7 months. I think they're scheduled to try to open Epic Universe right down the street from Disney, a huge new park that I think is the size of almost the 2 parks they have now. It's ginormous. Disney is now so far behind the 8 ball with Universal. Universal is going to kick their ass next summer, I think, when Epic opens. If everything rolls smoothly, which I bet it will. It is going to be big trouble because Disney knows right now, come next summer, when they see that gap closing with Epic Universe, investors are going to get even more nervous than they are now. We just had a quarter where the Walt Disney Company, 2 quarters really, in a row, and this is the story, the real story of all this. We just had 2 quarters in a row where the Walt Disney Company basically guided towards having softer than anticipated theme park business. When your main line of revenue and your main profit margin, your main biggest pot of operating income comes from theme parks, and you're reporting not as good theme park business as you'd like, people tend to get nervous. Yeah, I think it was November of last year, maybe that earnings call, or the first one, maybe February of this year, where they announced this big, bold $60 billion of capital investment into parks and resorts, right? They were trying to excite everybody on those earnings calls. We're going to $60 billion in the next 10 years. Yay! I asked, as you know, we cover the live earnings calls, or we cover the earnings calls live here on Valiant Renegade every quarter for Disney. I asked the simple question. I wish I'd been on the call, but I asked the simple question during our coverage of it. On what? Where's the $60 billion going? Go ahead, show me. They had nothing. There was no plan. They showed pictures of hotels that were already built. And they showed a lot of hotels that were overseas. They showed hotels in Hong Kong. They showed hotels in France. They showed hotels in Japan. What about here? Orlando's your biggest park. Walt Disney World, if you combine all the other parks, including the one in California, and combine that with all the international parks, they still don't equal what Disney World in Florida does, business-wise. You would think that a good bit of that $60 billion would be allocated towards that, but yet nothing was announced. There was no plan. What if Reedy Creek, a.k.a. Disney, decided to float a municipal bond out there in the name of Reedy Creek? Ergo, instead of paying, in 2024, instead of paying an interest rate of maybe 7% or 8% on corporate debt, maybe 9% on corporate debt right now, who knows, whatever Disney would have to pay, instead, Disney effectively would only have to pay to get the same amount of money, 5% on a municipal bond. And 15% of it would get paid for by other people that were not Disney. And they could float a $1 billion bond and maybe pay for more infrastructure for this new addition they want to do in the park that would be exclusively used for Disney. If you don't think Disney was going to try that, you're smoking crack. What Disney is doing, now all this land around it, this is Disney property, right? This is all Disney property. But you see that river, California, and you see the same river in Florida right here. If y'all, let me expand this, I'm sorry. Disney's going to fill that in Florida. They're going to pour concrete in it. I'm not lying. That's the plan, right? That's the plan as of that's the plan as of right now, is to pour concrete in it. People are saying that this is going to fill all of this in, but I don't think this is accurate. This is just to give you an idea. So I'm trying to be fair. I'm showing different people's opinions here, But the idea is that this river is likely to go. The problem is, when he's saying is the scale doesn't work, the problem I have with this is that where is the river in this image? And the other part of this is, why do they not use this property way up here? If we can see this bottom section here, I'm going to pull this up on Google Maps so I can show you a little bit better scale. Where Disney is putting this, they're doing it as a matter of being cheap. And here's the most important thing. I think Disney is doing this. I think Disney just threw this together. I think they just threw this crap together at the last minute. I don't think they had any plans necessarily for this a couple of years ago. I think they wanted to do something. Maybe it was something like this, but their whole screw up, trying to file suit against Ron DeSantis, the state of Florida, and the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, that screwed Disney up for 2 years. I promise you, this project, even if it goes off the way they're talking, it's that's got to be at least another couple of years away. So here we are. We are on the Magic Kingdom. A little bit cleaner view here, okay? And you can see back here. All right, so hopefully y'all can see my cursor right here. So if you look, there's your Haunted Mansion right here. Here's the Rivers of America. This is Frontierland down here, okay? You can see Tom Sawyer Island, okay, right here. The boat launch to it. And that cruise goes all around this river, the Rivers of America. This is something that Walt put in because this represented old America. This is why it's in every Magic Kingdom park that Disney has around the world, okay? Every single one of them. And that river, actually, if I back it out a little bit more, you can see the way they do this. They build that river channel. It flows all the way back out, if you're following my cursor here, all the way back out to the Seven Seas Lagoon. Okay, that's where the monorail system is and all the hotels, the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, the Contemporary, yada, 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 yada. And, of course, we've showed you before, if you sneak around here enough, you'll find the little trailer parks that constitute the city of Bay Lake and Lake Buena Vista, but that's another story. All this land here, Disney owns. All this over here, okay? And that highway right there, that's like a service road for Disney. That's Disney's road. That's their access road. By the way, here's the here's one. Oh no, that's one of the storage units. I thought that was one of the cul-de-sacs that was Lake Buena Vista. That's a different one. I used to have them marked on here. But they have lots of room elsewhere to build this out. They could go out. You could see look. See where they did here? Here's where they were building the Tron light cycle. This is obviously an older image on Google Maps. This is from a couple of years ago before they finished Tron light cycle, but that's where they were building it there. They have other area to build out. They could go and build Cars Land right up here, right? They could build in this area if they wanted to. They could change that. They could make another stop on the Rivers Tour out here and build out this way if they really wanted to. What they're looking at doing, though, is they're taking this section here in front of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad right here, okay? And this is basically getting filled in. This is the only place that land could go. So they're going to put cars and villains and all this stuff, and a lot of this is going to get scrapped. Now, are they going to fill in the entire river? Probably not. They might not have to. But a lot of this section here, they want to chew up what's already in the park. Look at everything around it. Again, you've already got utilities, you've got infrastructure, you've got electrical, you've got plumbing, you got gas, all of that surrounding this area on three sides. I think Disney is just doing this to be cheap. I think Disney is doing this just to save a buck. And they don't have to go through what is, I would guess, additional permitting processes, and ergo, much more costly permitting processes to start making major commercial developments on this land over here. Because Disney owns all of this. This is all Disney. Everything, this is all Disney property. All of that. There's lots of room. There's lots and lots of room. But we're going to go pouring concrete into rivers. So like I said earlier, Disney will pay to... They will pay to pave over the Magic Kingdom. They will pay to fill in the rivers. They will pay to pave over your kid's junk with their medical insurance if you want to transition your child as a Disney employee. Isn't that spectacular? Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.